Welcome back to BIZ Talk. This is Jill C. Sanchez. I am so happy. This segment, we have our friend Lalit Aluwalia, and he is doing something very interesting today. And we are going to welcome him. How are you doing today, Lalit?
Doing wonderful. Calling you today from lovely New York City. So, happy to be here on the show again.
Absolutely. So we want to tell you something about Lalit before we begin. He is a visionary force in cybersecurity thought leader. He is the CEO and founder of Digital X Force and I Trust X Force, where he leads the charge in revolutionizing the industry with innovative T-Trust solutions. His leadership leverage automation, AI, and ML, and cutting-edge methodologies to provide customized next-gen cybersecurity services for clients. Throughout his illustrious career, Lalit has earned notable recognition and accreditations, including the prestigious CIO, CTO, Excellence in Cybersecurity Awards, and the 40 Under 40 Awards by business journals. He's held pivotal roles as a CISO for several organizations, solidifying his reputation as a cybersecurity expert. And today, Lalit, we will be talking about data protection. If there is something we need to be aware of as business owners, is the data. And we've seen the what it can cause when that leaks.
Yeah.
So, what steps can I take to ensure sensitive customers and employees' data?
hmm Well, first of all, Ilti, again, I'm glad to be back on this show again. And I know the topic that you've chosen is a very, very important one because the digital economy is fueled by data. And which says data is the new oil. And we live in Texas. We know the value of oil, right? More than any other state in the United States. So data is critical. Now, what can we do to kind of like protect data? I think it starts fundamentally knowing where is your data and what data matters. And I cannot emphasize how often we take it so lightly. We just like really do not pay attention to like, really managing what data do we have in our control. The other big element is really, does all data that you collect needs to be collected? It's very vital and important to really collect the data. That's really important because if there was a bad actor looking for data, right, in your custody, they're looking for something more sensitive and all. And if your data business doesn't need that, do not collect that. Then comes, every small business also interacts with other businesses, right? When you're interacting with them, make sure they're also protecting the data at the same level, with the same scrutiny and the same level of controls as you are entitled to. Now, I'll tell you this, like there are states, there are regulations like GDPR in European Union, where like, 4% of the revenue of the company will be like, penalized if you're not following the data privacy laws, right? And the data is left out. The same thing is happening in California, CCPA, and all of the states, and as a country at large, and countries at large are actually implementing this. So it's going to be very, very critical to all that. So start with the basics, know your data, where is the data, what matters, know who is in control and charge of that, and make sure only people who need to know or have to have access have access. Do not just like give away access to just anyone and everyone. And where possible and however possible, encrypt the data. When I say word encrypt, means put in a way that even if somebody like took custody of the data, they will not be able to read it or analyze it without having the keys to it. Just like you lock your doors, like before you leave. That's the key here.
Okay, that was going to be my next question, was about encrypting the data
Yeah.
for small businesses. But what is exactly encrypting? What does that entail? How much time is going to take, and how much money will it take for a small business to do to encrypt the data?
Absolutely. Let's say we play a game, all right? Guilty? We're like trying to share something between us, and we want to make sure the Gustavo it does not really get to see and understand what we are sharing with each other. So we start using what? Code words. Using that technology is one form of encryption. Which trying to convey the message, but in a way that it's really not in the clear text format. is kind of like really something that you and I can understand. In the technology landscape, encryption is where we basically scramble the data and make it unreadable. And the only way you can now read it or back into like, the readable form is when you have that digital key to bring it back. And the only people that really will have that is the one who's sharing the data and one who has the data, the key shared between them. That's the fundamental part of encryption. Now, why that is important? As I mentioned, let's say even if your data gets compromised. Now, if it's in a clear text format, anybody who really has access to data now, when compromised, will be able to do, or take control of that. On the other hand, if it's encrypted, it's almost useless for them because they don't have the key. So you kind of like really add an additional layer of encryption. Now, let me also, without confusing the audience, just because you have encryption doesn't mean you're secure either. And we'll talk about like, of course, the subsequent episodes and stuff, the other techniques coming. But encryption is definitely a fundamental technique that you should employ if you are trying to protect the customer data in your custody.
Okay, Latli, we have a couple minutes only, but what is the best approach to securely store and back up the critical business data for our businesses?
See, the best approach, as I said, keep the fundamentals straight. Make sure the data that you want to store is stored and it's not distributed in 10 different places. It's stored like somewhere where it's centralized, right? One approach. Number two, when it's stored and you know where it's stored, make sure it's encrypted properly with the highest standards. The next thing is access control. Like if Lalit will have access to it, or Guilty will have access to it, Gustavo, who really needs to have access to what level? Determine that and make sure that is employed. Continuously make sure you're backing up the data as well. Because sometimes what happens, the attacks like ransomware come, where people are able to get hold of your data, right? You don't want to be in that position either. So make sure you're backing up the data and everything else. And of course, really keep complementing that with other kind of techniques, such as multi-factor authentication, be able to really kind of apply other kind of assessments or regular analysis and audits, so we make sure your compliance requirements are met as well, because that matters for small businesses. They have to meet certain compliances to be stay in business. But if you can follow those fundamental steps, I think you'll be far ahead than where you today.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lily. And a lot of those might be a little bit frustrating, the authentication and all that. You have to put 100,000 million codes to access a certain program, but it's necessary. So, and before we leave, tell us really quickly where we can find you to start establishing a plan, a cybersecurity plan.
Absolutely, Guilty. So it's, as I mentioned earlier too, we have our websites, thedigitalexports.com and itrustexports.com. You'll find a lot of valuable information. Of course, you're always welcome to reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn, Lalit Aluwalia, and I'll be happy to kind of connect you with not just our firm, there are a lot of other great companies doing a lot of wonderful work, right? And I'm willing to help small, medium businesses. Happy to put in connect there too. But yes, these are your ways to connect with us, and happy to help in any ways we can.
Absolutely, Lalit. Thank you so much for joining us again. Again, this was Lalit Aluwalia and all the cybersecurity information. And for you, do not go away. We will be right back after a short commercial break with BIZ Talk.
Thank you. Take care.